Every day, parents write to me saying that they no longer identify as a gentle parent. Sometimes they're talking about the fact that they feel like they were getting too permissive. Sometimes they're talking about the fact that they feel like the gentle parenting sphere, especially online, has become too judgmental. Sometimes it's because they see that our teens and our young adults aren't doing very well in the realm of mental health and resilience, and they're worried that gentle parenting has led them there. And I, too, am an outspoken critic of the downsides of the gentle parenting movement. If I had to sum it up in just one sentence, it's that gentle parenting is often misconstrued, misinterpreted, and misenacted as permissive parenting. And permissive parenting is not good. But today, I actually want to share with you the 10 things that I think are great about gentle parenting so that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't identify with any label. I don't like attaching myself to any one dogmatic, parenting philosophy or ideology. And I read many different books and blend and test. I take what works and I leave the rest. And I encourage you to do the same. But today, I want to just make a case for the things you should take from gentle parenting because they really are wonderful and useful. And no, it's not the be-all and end-all. There's the whole other side of parenting, the authoritative side that gentle parenting is often missing these days, at least as it's enacted online or as we see it maybe in TikToks, in movies, or on the street and in the playground. But let's dive into these things that I think we should maintain. Well, welcome back to Hi Fam. If you're just here for the first time, I'm Avital. I'm the mother of 5. I'm on a mission to help you build a strong family culture, raise resilient kids, and really live in alignment with your values. And if that sounds good, make sure to hit the subscribe and like button, and let's dive in. The first thing, and maybe the biggest thing that I love about gentle parenting as a whole, is the idea of modeling as a key focus. I really believe that children do as we do, not as we say. I believe that we, the parents, are the curriculum of our kids' childhood. I believe that they are learning a lot more by osmosis and subconscious observation than they are by our overt verbal instructions. And therefore, I think gentle parenting, peaceful parenting, conscious parenting in particular, and its key focus on the parent as a role model is spot on. This is not something we should give up on. Now, are there downsides to this? Of course, it's not all about modeling. It's not all about this passive, hands-off, they'll learn from my ways, they'll just know because they'll feel it, they'll just be in my energy and eventually they'll learn from me. I think it can go too far in that direction. And it can lead us to feel like our hands are tied, like we can't actually step in, follow through on boundaries, set rules, and give verbal commands and directions to our children. But the overall idea that maybe say 70% of what your children are learning is actually by observation, I think is correct. I also think it's really good to focus on modeling because it leads us to be less hypocritical. Like if we're asking our kids to spend less time on their screens or to talk respectfully or not to raise their voice, then we're not really a believable authority or leader if we ourselves are still stuck doing those things. We do have to actually master the very things that we want our children to be able to master. We can't lead them and guide them or teach them skills that we don't have. And therefore, I think the focus on modeling is really very powerful in raising children. I also think that this is a great way to lead a meaningful life. I do take from the conscious parenting world the idea that parenting is in and of itself a growth channel for me as an individual. It's a place where I can flex and really learn and really strain those muscles of patience, of empathy, of understanding, of leadership. All of the values that I want to pass on to my children, I first need to inhabit myself. I first need to actually exemplify them and be a good role model. And so it makes parenting a much more meaningful challenge. It's exciting. It's an adventure. It's a way that we create purpose and fulfillment in our lives as adults by saying, I want to be the best mom I can be to my kids. And that means being the best version of myself that I can be in the world. Number 2, high support. Now, in gentle parenting texts, books about peaceful parenting and respectful parenting, you will find a focus on high expectations as well. Right? They're going to quote the very well-established, evidence-based research that shows that the best parenting style is the authoritative approach, which blends high support and high expectations. If you want more on this, watch my video on why I left gentle parenting. But what we see in actual fact, often, as I say, in the playgrounds, in the online support forums, on Facebook, on Reddit, in the school system, we're often going to see that the focus is always on the high support. So yes, we need the high expectations, and that's the downside of this. But I'm here to tell you what you should take from gentle parenting. And high support is good for kids. We want to be loving, warm, there for them, empathic to them, understanding them, trying to help them on their journey, trying to help them to overcome, to develop skills, to meet opportunities. The idea that your parent is there, has your back, is your friend, is a good idea. It can't be the only idea. We can't just be our kids' friends. We also need to be their coaches, their guides, and we have to hold rules and support. So this idea, like all the ideas on this list, aren't enough. They're not complete. It's not everything that you need. But yes, we do need to offer our kids high support. High support is how our children know that in this world, when they come up against challenges and difficulties, hard times, or even grief and loss, they are not alone. They have someone there who has their incentives in mind, who is thinking of them, who is there for them, who has put time aside, has put energy, resources aside to help them grow and learn and be healthy, well-rounded individuals in this world. High support is really how they know they're loved. And that leads me to point number 3, which is that I think the gentle parenting world has a huge focus on secure attachment. Secure attachment is more than just the support. It's more than just, taking them to school and helping them with homework and teaching them skills and making sure they're fed and all of that. It's actually the more emotional side, the more bonded side of our relationship. Secure attachment is knowing that they can cry on our shoulder. It's knowing that they feel deeply safe with us, that we are their person, that we are just like that amazing bond between mother and baby. We maintain that bond with our toddlers, children, and teenagers and adult children, even though, of course, it looks different. Secure attachment is about showing love. It's about all that warmth. It's about the eye contact, the love languages, right? Quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch. It's about showing love. And some of you may have grown up with parents who just didn't really do this. They may not have even done it as a baby. And they certainly didn't do it when you were a kid or a teenager or now. But secure attachment is something that I think I really take from the gentle parenting world, that this is something we want to maintain and foster and ensure is a priority in our lives with our child. I think this is a great thing to maintain, and it's really, really important because this is how our child feels that love and feels that they can overcome, that they can, face challenges, and that when we set rules and expectations for them, it's coming from someone who really loves them to the moon and back. So whilst I think the gentle parenting world sometimes goes a little bit overboard on, say, things like special time, as if this is a catch-all answer to absolutely everything, I still think special time is great. Spending concentrated, close time with our children, offering them the high support that we mentioned, but also the secure attachment, that kind of deeper, more bonded feeling, I think is critical. Again, not enough. There are other things we have to do as a parent, but I like to think of parenting a bit like a cake. There are various ingredients that need to go in. You need the flour, the sugar, the eggs, the water, and the pinch of salt. Now, different recipes will call for different ratios, but if you don't get the proportions right, the cake's not going to work. And so in your home, you might be making a different cake than I'm making in my home, but we both want our cakes to come out good. And therefore, we need a little bit of every ingredient. Gentle parenting offers us a lot of really good ingredients. They're not enough. They're not everything we need, but high support and parental secure attachment with a child are definitely key ingredients. Number 4, great communication skills. Gentle parenting and its brothers and sisters often focus on ideas of how to phrase things that don't sound accusatory or inflammatory or don't escalate things. They focus on conflict resolution, on things like validating, reflecting back what the child has said, providing words and vocabulary to describe emotions or to describe expressions, and often providing mantras and scripts for how we can phrase things in ways that are going to land better, that are going to lead to greater conflict resolution, to better understanding, to active listening, to feeling understood, and to a sense that we get each other in this household. And I think that's great. I, again, like all these points, think that communication skills is not everything. It doesn't mean that you should get robotic and that you should be stiff and that you should stick to the script sheet and that you have to look up the sheet on your fridge before you can answer your child. And it doesn't mean that you're damaging your kid if you say things like, because I said so, or just do it now, or, oh, you're being annoying. Those are human, normal interactions. And I don't like that gentle parenting kind of demonizes them and makes us feel so guilty all the time. But back to this video, which is about what I do like about gentle parenting. I do like the idea of teaching our kids how to communicate their needs in a respectful, useful, effective manner. And so, yeah, if we need some scripts and mantras and phrases because we didn't grow up with them, we're not seeing them around us, we don't know quite how to say it, then that can be really useful. That's a good tool. We want our kids to be great communicators, and gentle parenting teaches us to be great communicators too, so that we can teach it to them. There's that modeling we spoke about. So yes, sometimes we have to get on the floor with siblings and help them interpret each other, understand each other, brainstorm solutions, and come to a conclusion. We have to phrase things with our children that don't sound accusatory. So we have to maybe say things in a more positive way. Use the word no less. Stop saying you did this or you did that. Use tone of voice and body language that's more open and calm and soft and accepting and inviting so that our children can actually hear what we're saying to them. There are a ton of very useful tools that I take from the gentle parenting world to be a better communicator and to teach my kids to be a better communicator, to talk about more uncomfortable conversations like emotions or topics that we find touchy like death or sex or money. And gentle parenting really does offer some great tools for phrasing ourselves and listening to our children in a way that keeps those channels of communication open in the long run. Part of these great communication skills is the bit where the parent communicates themselves, communicates when I'm getting triggered, communicates why I have particular rules. You know, in the authoritarian parenting approach, parents don't ever explain themselves. They don't need to explain why I've said to do something, what my thinking is, what my emotional needs are, why I'm going to my room and slamming the door. And I think gentle parenting is a lot about being transparent and authentic with our kids. Now, you don't always owe your kids an explanation. I think it's okay to sometimes just be like, it's because I said so. Can you not question this right now? Or I'll explain another time. Or you know what? That's just the rule and I can't really explain it to you today. But I do think in general, the idea that we do show our children that there is logic, that there is a rationale, that we're not just abusing our power or exercising power over them and trying to manipulate them or force them to do things, that we're not telling them to clean their room because we're evil, but rather because there's a reason. You know, clean rooms lead to being able to find things better, better hygiene, a more pleasant living environment, more focus on my work. I can explain those things to my kids because gentle parenting has taught me to communicate with clarity, with honesty, with trust. And I think that's really great. Number 5 is the focus on positive behaviors. One of the key pieces of advice you get in gentle parenting is to focus on what you want to see more of. In other words, if your child is being kind, to highlight it, to notice it, to give positive reinforcement to that. And if they're doing negative things, to withdraw attention and to ignore it. Now, I don't think it's sustainable to always ignore bad behaviors. I think sometimes we have to correct. Sometimes we have to give critique. But I do think that this focus on the positive, trying to always see our children in a positive light, try to catch them doing something good, try to give attention and really foster and cultivate and encourage those positive sides of them, just creates a great atmosphere and is likely to lead to more positive behavior. So I think this is a good skill that I take from gentle parenting, which is that every child wants to grow up and every adult wants to live in a home where people see the good in them, where people hold their goodness to light, where people expect the best for them and of them and see them as capable, as genuinely good people, right? We all want that feeling that people around us like us beyond just loving us because they're our parents, that they actually like us, that they think we're cool or funny or interesting or creative or smart, that they enjoy our company. And that they notice where we're putting in effort, that it doesn't go unnoticed and ignored. I don't know if you ever lived in a household where your parents maybe just didn't notice the good things you were doing, but came down on you like a ton of bricks when you made a mistake. That's the feeling like someone's looking to catch you out, like someone's got a gotcha moment, Like they're not noticing all the ways you are succeeding, or you are being respectful, or you are keeping your room tidy, but they catch you just on that off day. Focusing on the positive helps their child to actually live up to their positive reputation. And I think that's a great thing to take from gentle parenting. Number 6 is no bad kids. This is the idea that there's no such thing as a bad child, only bad choices or bad behaviors or negative behaviors due to them being tired or hungry or dysregulated for some reason. This idea is that when children make a bad choice, like hitting their friend or talking back or kicking something, it's not because they're a bad kid, it's not because there's something wrong with them, but we are actually looking for the reason behind it. So gentle parenting really looks for the deeper need that hasn't been answered. Maybe the child is tired or hungry. Maybe the child is cold or wet. Maybe the child didn't get enough attention from their parent. Maybe the child is feeling really jealous of their sibling. Now, like all these points, this has a downside, which is that parents become preoccupied with constantly investigating and searching and unearthing the hidden need behind the bad behavior. And sometimes bad behavior is just a bad choice that you made. Maybe you were influenced by some bad behavior. Maybe you had a negative emotion that led you to act out. Maybe you got a bad idea in your head. Like maybe you just did something wrong. And I don't think it's so healthy for us parents to be constantly putting on our detective hats and trying to figure out and decode and deeply understand and find that special need that wasn't met, that special reason. This kind of goes along with the idea that hurt people, that there's always some kind of background reason, some kind of story or excuse or trauma or event that caused someone to behave badly. Now, I think this often offers excuses for bad behavior. It often just lets people off the hook. Some people behave badly because they made a poor choice, because they followed, a negative impulse that they had, because they were dysregulated and out of control, because someone got in their head or a bad ideology influenced them, or they watched a movie and they decided it would be cool to copy the characters, whatever. I don't think it's good for us to obsessively be investigating the unmet needs of our children that then serve as excuses for their poor choices. However, I do think we should take from gentle parenting the idea that your child isn't their poor choices. That's not who they are. They have intrinsic value and worth. You can offer them unconditional love and acceptance as a human being, and you can correct negative behaviors. And it's also true that some negative behaviors, especially in very young children, really are as a direct consequence of unmet needs. And it's better to just meet the needs than get fixated on the behavior. If a child is completely exhausted and it's an hour past bedtime and they're being rude and disruptive, it's not the time to focus on the rude and disruptive. It's the time to get them to sleep, right? Sometimes it is because they're really hungry. It is because something really bad is going on in their life. It is because of trauma. And it's good that gentle parenting points this out to us. We shouldn't take it too far. That doesn't mean we should excuse bad behaviors. And it doesn't mean we should get fixated and completely obsessed with finding these hidden needs, because they're not always going to be there. That's not always going to be the reason for the bad behavior. And even if they are, you have to overcome your needs. Even when you're hungry, you have to learn to behave respectfully. Even when you're tired, even when you're traumatized, even when a lot of things, your child is still going to need to learn to self-regulate. So we don't want to give them excuses to hide behind, even if those excuses are really valid. They're real reasons, like going through a really hard time. Are we going to cut them a little bit of slack when they've gone through a really hard time? Of course. A child that's sick, a child that's parents are getting divorced, they're going to perhaps slightly loosen the rules here and there. But the idea of looking for hidden needs can easily go too far. Still, again, I'm defending it. I'm putting it on this list because I think it's really important for us to be tuned in, for us to be sensitive and aware of our children's unmet needs, of our children's physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological, intellectual needs, and how those are going to influence their ability to make good choices and behave well. Number 7 is allowing all emotions, correcting behaviors, but not emotions. So I think gentle parenting teaches us that children are allowed to feel mad or sad or frustrated or angry or whatever. They're allowed to feel whatever feeling they want, and that we don't need to correct those feelings. We don't need to suppress them. We don't need to really tell them things like, don't cry, or you have no excuse to be mad, or you shouldn't be sad now, you should be happy. In other words, we shouldn't be meddling in their emotional world at all. And that doesn't mean that we can't correct behaviors. Just because you're mad doesn't mean you're allowed to throw a chair. Just because you're sad doesn't mean that you get to skip grandma's birthday. You still need to do the things that you need to do, and your behaviors aren't excused just because you have feelings, but you're allowed to have your feelings. It's kind of teaching them this emotional resilience or emotional awareness, an emotional intelligence of accepting that feelings are like waves, that they pass, and that they don't control us. Where I think this goes wrong is that I think often parents think that their children's feelings should be centered, should be platformed, should be highlighted, that it should become the main piece of conversation, and that your feelings are always justified and should never be coached or addressed or even questioned. Now, I happen to think that feelings are important. It's important to be aware of what we feel and try to decode why we feel them, but also they shouldn't run us. You are in the driver's seat, not your feelings. And I want my children to learn that sometimes you just have to do the thing. You have to feel the fear and do it anyway. You have to feel sad or depressed and still get up in the morning and change your clothes and brush your teeth and start your day. You have to feel angry and mad and still control yourself and question those thoughts and coach yourself and ask yourself, is this really the best reaction? Is there another way I can interpret this situation? Sometimes this ultimate respect for feelings, this adherence and sacredness of the emotion can become a crutch that parents use to excuse children from making good choices, from functioning, from, behaving like civilized individuals, etc. And that's where this definitely goes too far. So this is really not something you want to go to in the extreme. Children need to learn to overcome their feelings. They need to learn emotional stability. They need to learn that, just because I feel offended, hurt, depressed, or angry doesn't mean that that's the most appropriate or healthy response to the situation. They need to learn that it's okay to question your initial knee-jerk, automatic, emotive response and coach yourself to be a little bit more mentally tough and to be able to handle things without such an emotional roller coaster. Having said all of that, it is also important to let children feel their feelings, not to force them to suppress it, not to constantly be on their case, to smile or not to cry. It's important to let children know that we all feel feelings and that they come and go like waves, and sometimes they have something to teach us and that they don't run the show. So yes, you can focus on your child's behavior and you can allow their feelings. You can say those mantras like, it's okay to be mad, but it's not okay to hit. That's a fine mantra. It's true. But what's also true is that you also could sometimes choose not to be mad. You could sometimes coach yourself on more patience, on more grace, on more generosity, on thinking about things in a better way. Say my sister grabs my chair from me and I'm mad, and I might as a mother say, it's okay to be mad, but you're not allowed to hit. Where I could continue that conversation might be to, after the child calms down, of course, say, sometimes someone takes a chair from us because they didn't realize we were sitting there. I could actually help them to view the situation through a more generous lens, offering the benefit of the doubt, calming themselves down, thinking, 1 minute, I can just ask my sibling for the chair back. I don't need to get mad. That's not necessary. Just because they have an automatic feeling doesn't mean that that's the right way to respond, that it's useful, helpful, effective, that they can't actually find more emotional calm in their lives because they can. So this is one that I was hesitant to put in the list because I don't think it's a good idea to make emotions a main part of your identity. I think it's a good idea to teach kids to overcome emotions and to build emotional stability. And I think just accepting madness and sadness all the time sometimes encourages more of it. And that's not in our child's best interest. Emotional stability is what's in their best interest. But I included it in the list because I think sometimes when we swing more towards authoritative approaches, we lose this sensitivity to emotion. We lose the ability to let children sometimes just have a good cry or feel really sad or grieve or get a bit mad. And they're allowed to have those feelings and we should be able to tolerate them. Gentle parenting teaches us, the parents, to breathe, to accept the feelings, to let the feelings pass. And whilst you can go overboard with that, and it's okay for you to get annoyed sometimes, I think that's a good skill to develop, our own emotional stability in the face of our children's emotional volatility. Number 8 is awareness of childhood development. I feel like gentle parenting is really focused on understanding the stages of development. What's appropriate for a baby, toddler, child, tween, teen. I feel like there is a focus on what the appropriate expectations should be. And whilst I think we should hold high expectations, I think we do need this awareness, this knowledge, this intelligence, this attunement to what those expectations could be. And I'm going to combine number 8 with number 9, which is also an awareness of children's diagnoses or special needs or particular sensitivities. Now, do I think this one sometimes goes way overboard? Yes. I think the fact that so many children now have labels and diagnoses that often used to just be considered quirks of a personality, part of your character, or normal childhood behaviors is not in their best interest. But there are some real labels and diagnoses that we need to be sensitive to. This is a hard one because it's really hard for us parents to decipher whether a real diagnosis and a therapeutic track or medicalization is going to be in the child's best interest, is going to help them, is going to be liberating, and the label is actually going to help them get their needs met and get the services that they need. Or is the labeling going to be disabling? Is the label just putting on a diagnosis and pathologizing something that is within the realm of the norm and that can be addressed through parenting and the household culture? We can't settle that debate right here today, but what I like about the gentle parenting culture is the idea that we should be aware of what children are actually going through, of what our unique children's needs are, of what our children's age, stage, brain, body, temperament is actually like, and how that might influence our expectations of them and the support that we give them. And number 10, and this is my favorite one, apart from number 1, I like that one too. Number 10 is about apologizing and repair. I think one of the most powerful, helpful, useful, effective, and very real tools that I take from gentle parenting is the ability to apologize and repair with my child whenever there has been some kind of rupture in our attachment, some kind of rupture in the relationship. I yelled at them. I lost it with them. They lost it with me. They got hurt or offended by me. I was frustrated and sad and ran off to my room. Whatever I did, however I embarrassed them or upset them or hurt their feelings, gentle parenting has taught me that there is always time and space and room and the possibility of repair. And that our relationship needs that. It needs us to put a Band-Aid on, to heal, and then it can be like new. The idea that we as parents aren't perfect, we can't be perfect, we don't need to strive for perfectionism because that can be really debilitating and drive us into guilt and drive us into shame. But instead, that when we've made mistakes, when we've made choices that we think weren't right, when we didn't show up as our best selves, we can apologize, make an honest, direct, eye contact, touch, accountable, responsible, mature apology to our kids. And I think this type of focus allows us to constantly put our relationship front and center. The feeling that we are connected, that we are attached, that we are supportive, that there's love, that there's warmth. All of those great things are things that I take from gentle parenting with me. And I suggest you take them too, because we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Now, if you are interested in becoming a little bit more authoritative, being more boundaried, having higher expectations, and making sure that you are teaching your kids really good habits, really good manners, good behaviors, and character development, that's something that I think is weak in the gentle parenting world. It's there. I mean, if you read it in the books and the research and the data, it's there. The experts do say it, but it's just not what's practiced. It's not what you see in the forums. It's not what you see on the playgrounds. It's not what I see in my inbox. And so that's the side of me that has left gentle parenting and made sure I'm upholding really high expectations, boundaries, rules, right? And follow through on consequences. These are the types of things that I think get really weak there, along with the overemphasis on fragility of emotions, right? It's the over empathy. It's the centering and platforming emotions all the time. It's making emotions my key identifying factor as a child, and often just kind of kowtowing to that. And in fact, inadvertently and really, with the best of intentions, kind of building in emotional manipulation and emotional weakness in our children. I'm here to build a strong family culture, and that means strong kids who are resilient, kids who overcome, kids who don't get knocked down that easy, kids who know what they stand for and are driven towards particular values and are able to show up in the world with strength, with empathy, sure, but also with expectations of themselves. So I know gentle parenting is not about coddling, but it often leads to coddling. And it also can lead to spirals of guilt in parents, which I think are really unhelpful and, in fact, counterproductive. All right, now I want to hear from you. What do you take from gentle parenting? What do you love from this movement? And I do just want to say, I know people interpret the words gentle parenting to mean different things. It has different definitions. There are different gurus and books and courses that you've taken all about this. But hopefully you've understood what I mean when I'm talking about gentle parenting, the general zeitgeist and meme of gentle parenting, the upsides and the downsides. Now, stay tuned because I'm going to actually help you transition from gentle parenting to a more authoritative approach if that's something that you're looking for. And if you want to be part of a community of like-minded parents, get the coaching from me on your personal questions, like recent questions that came up in the studio, a mom who asked me what to do when her 7-year-old is being too precocious, wanting to pose in sexy poses, or a mom who asked me what to do when the siblings just will not stop fighting, no matter what. Or another parent who asked me what to do when she's going on vacation with the entire family and her mother-in-law just keeps giving the kids candy and screen time, even when she asks her not to. If these are the types of things that you're curious for answers for, make sure to join me in the studio where I coach you. This is our online membership where parents from all over the world who are not adherent, are not strict about any one dogmatic parenting ideology, but are rather really focused on building a strong family culture and whatever that means for you in your home. Make sure to check it out at highfam.com/studio. I'll see you on the inside.